Shalom, shalom. Giving all praises to Yahweh. Hashem Yahshua, Hashem Kakadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of GMS that rule and teach well in the scriptures. Salutations to the IQM that are doing this work in truth and faith and in all sincerity. Today's lesson is going to be about the current events that are happening. Basically with what's transpired in the last couple of days, plus MOTB that's going on. So what we're going to do now is we're going to play this. This is, I don't know, about almost 2 days ago, and it's about Microsoft with the computers that failed during CrowdStrike global outage. And so, Lord willing, I'll play this and follow it a few scriptures.
Warnings for people to remain vigilant against scammers in the wake of the IT outage that caused chaos around the world.
Computer systems are still coming back online, but questions remain about the vulnerabilities exposed by the outage. Joanna Weaver is the founding director of the Tech Policy Design Centre at the Australian National University. She joins us now. Joanna, good to have you along. We'll get to the vulnerabilities that this has exposed in a moment, but while these systems are coming back online, the government is warning people to be vigilant and be careful of scammers, that they may attempt to scam people in the wake of this chaos. How would they be doing that?
Oh, look, we're hearing stories of people impersonating emails from CrowdStrike or offering support for people to get their systems back up. And I think the most important message for people here is if you're not a CrowdStrike customer, don't respond. And if you are a CrowdStrike customer, use your existing channels and certainly don't be sharing any personal information or bank details.
That's very good advice. How vulnerable, Joanna, are we here in Australia and as a world if a simple update failure like this can cause so much chaos across so many areas of life?
Look, without question, we've seen just how vulnerable the increasingly networked and interconnected world is. It's interesting because this incident really impacted Australia. We felt the brunt of it because this software update was pushed out overnight in the US when there was less computers online in the US, and so the impact was felt in Australia because it was the late afternoon in Australia. Interestingly, we've seen previous incidents where the opposite happened. So people might remember the WannaCry ransomware incident, which was back in 2017, which actually rolled out in Europe, and by the time it kind of rolled around the world, it was overnight in Australia, and the patches were largely available here in Australia by the time Australians were waking up. So, sometimes geography works in our favour and sometimes it doesn't, and this is certainly one example of when it didn't.
When you're talking about updates, I feel as though I'm constantly being asked to update my computer or my phone, and I'm pressing snooze, snooze, snooze. Will this incident, and should this incident, make us think about the way we update in its current form?
Look, it shouldn't impact the way that individuals update. So it's really important. The reason that those updates come to your phone or to your computer is usually because someone has identified a security vulnerability or there is an error with the software that needs to be corrected. And indeed, that's what happened in this incident as well. So it shouldn't impact individuals. You should be updating your software or your phones, your operating devices, as soon as those updates become available. What I think it will change, or what I expect there will be a lot of reflection on, is how those updates are pushed out to people. So what we've seen with this incident, and we're still, a lot of the focus at the moment has been on remediation, getting the computers and devices back up. The full deconstruction of exactly what happened is only just beginning, but it seems like CrowdStrike has pushed out an update that has in some way conflicted also with the Microsoft Microsoft operating systems. So there's questions here to be asked about, was that a mistake by CrowdStrike, a one-off human error, or is there a more systemic process issue that needs to be addressed in the way these updates are pushed out? And not just in the way that they're prepared and pushed up, but potentially also the way that they're
Now I speak as a man. I do believe that they're going to use this similar type of event to shut down everything running on Wi-Fi and computer networks. You know, whether it be now I speak as a man. I do believe that, you know, they're going to use this, me speaking as a man, similar type of event causing Babylon to shut down everything running on Wi-Fi and computer networks.
Coordinated with other providers across the sector.
We now know that there were about an estimated 8.5 million computers disabled by this outage. What do you make of the immediate response after the outage in terms of getting that crucial information out there? Because we're so reliant on the computer systems and the technology to communicate, but that was down.
Yeah, look, on the one hand, I think this is a good news story. When I think back, I was in government back in 2017-18 when we had WannaCry and NotPetya. I think when you look at the Australian government response, it was very coordinated. They stood up the national coordination mechanism. They had the large entities that were affected by this incident in the room with the CEO of CrowdStrike, providing updates. A fix was identified pretty quickly. I think there has been some people who are criticising that it took 6 hours, but 6 hours.
Like it. Let's get into it. Okay, this is Ecclesiasticus chapter 12, verse 10. And it reads, "Never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusted, so is his wickedness." And so, the wickedness of Esau, Edom. And you know, I really don't believe that this is Ecclesiasticus. This is chapter 12, verse 10. A mistake on updates. And it reads, "Never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusted, so is his wickedness." And by Esau, Edom, the wickedness of Esau, Edom, which is being utilized by Yahweh. I really don't believe that. Okay, never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusted, so is his wickedness. A mistake on updates. Humble himself, I believe this is and go crouching, yet take good heed, pre-orchestrate him. And thou shalt be unto him as thou hadst, which is being wiped the looking glass, utilized by Yahweh. Shalt know that his never trust thine enemy, been altogether like as iron rusted, so is his wickedness. Set him not by thee, himself, lest when he hath overthrown thee, beware of him. He stand up in thy place, and thou shalt be unto him as thou sit at thy right hand, wipe the looking glass, lest and thou he seek shalt take thy seat. That so with that his rust had not been altogether wiped away. You know, when he has set him not by thee in thy place, least when he hath overthrown thee, not only does he stand up in thy place, neither he's done let to all him sit at thy right hand, pretending to be the other nations, take thy seat, pretending to be and so with that being said, which you Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, you know, when he has overthrown thee, stand in thy place, well, he's already done that, and his rust has not only the altogether wiped away. He's done that to all the other nations as well. Wickedness. Pretending to be the other nations, especially pretending to be the children of Israel, which you Negroes, Latinos, was being depicted as rust. Okay, set him not by thee. So Esau's a wicked man, and his rust has not been altogether wiped away. Okay, rust is according to... He go crouching, wickedness. And he come with good game. Okay. That's and fair speech. Was being do not take as rust. Him and for granted. Esau's a wicked man. Do not take him though his system is what it is. He go crouching. Neither let him sit at thy right hand, least and he come with good game. He seek to take thy seat, and thou and fair speech. At the last, remember my words. Do not and take prick wherewith him for granted. Who would pity a charmer was bitten by a serpent? And so you do not take him or his sisters, Latinos, and Native Americans as what it is. Neither let him sit at thy right hand, lest 2/3 seek to take thy seat. And thou at the last remember my words.
To have a fix pushed out and then instructions to people actually is pretty quick. So I think, in terms of the specific incident response, this went quite well. I do think we need to have a broader question, and I hope that it prompts a conversation in Australia around, well, how do we communicate if that digital environment was degraded for a longer period of time? So how would the government be communicating with the public who, if it had continued for a longer period of time, maybe would start to be, becoming a little bit more aggravated about the situation. We saw media organisations were impacted. The ABC was impacted. Sky News was offline for a period of time. Also, as you mentioned, the devices themselves, so whether it's by communicating by email or by phones increasingly rely on digital networks themselves. So I think there is a conversation to be had about how Australians communicate in a crisis in a digitally degraded environment. And this is not just in relation to things like updates. We also saw this, for example, during the bushfires, that communications environments was degraded. So, I think it leads to a broader conversation around resilience and redundancies. And I hope that this does prompt that conversation, whilst also acknowledging that we have come quite a long way in a short period of time.
The Lord is in the process of snuffing this place out. Okay, Kahalayim. Yahweh Bashim Yahushua Bashim Karkadash.
Does prompt that conversation,
and there's much more. So.
That we have come quite a long way in a short period of time.
The Lord is in the process of snuffing this place out. Okay, Kahalayim. Yahweh Bashim Yahushua Bashim Karkadash. And there's much more. So let's see. See if this is.
I don't think that Rusty would be here today if it wasn't for the farmer's dog. He was always a dry kibble.
People in Australia felt it first, while much of North America was still asleep. At about 3:30 p.m. local time, according to the Home Affairs Minister, a massive tech outage hit. Companies and organizations started reporting this, known as the blue screen of death. Computers went down and took tons of services with them, including banks and hospitals, and broadcasters off the air.
For our viewers who...
Now you heard that, right? Banks and hospitals. Okay. One is to treat the patients, and one is where you can receive funds. Okay, the Lord is putting a swift end to this place. And Esau still dragging his feet. Now you heard that, right? Banks and hospitals. So, okay. One is to treat the Esau needs to move a lot quicker. One is where you can receive fulfill this new world order. Okay, the Lord is putting a swift end to this place. We all know, according to the scriptures, and Esau still dragging his feet, that enterprise will not be fulfilled. So, but we encourage Esau, Edom. Esau needs to move a lot quicker to hurry up and get going if you want to fulfill this new world order.
Tuning in, and as Tom said, this is an extraordinary situation. Our studio's down with this breach as well. When I call it a breach, though, it's not a malicious one.
Right. This wasn't a cyber attack. At 5:45 a.m. Eastern, the cybersecurity company CrowdStrike said an update.
To hurry up and get. No, I don't believe it was a. It was a strike on the computer networks from an outside source. I believe this is a beta test to see how many. No, I don't believe it was be affected, and what extent of the amount of damage that can be done. A strike on the in a short computer networks from an outside source. I believe it I believe this is a beta test, mainstream, to see how many when it's finally a live drill. I believe it's going to affect the amount of damage that can be done. What it has affected in a short period of time. Microsoft is sending, I believe, the signals when this goes mainstream. Update, when it's finally a live without the owner's permission. I believe it's going to affect many more computers. The problem lies at what it has affected. They got some type of software because Microsoft is sending signals because majority of the people don't know how to they're not IT professionals, and so they don't without know how the owner's permission shut these processes and functions the problem down lies at to keep it from updating. They got some type of software, so there's going to be a whole lot of computers that get affected because majority of the people don't know how to. They're not IT professionals, so-called, and so they don't know how to shut these. Which is not really going to be an update when it finally happens. To keep it from update, they're going to blame it on an outside. So there's going to be a whole lot of computers that get affected. China, Russia, by this. Okay, one of those Eastern countries. So-called.
To its software was to blame. A glitch in that software caused it to react badly with some Microsoft-based systems.
The problem with the CrowdStrike software is that when it stops working, the whole computer stops working, and the computer won't even turn on at this point. And not only does that mean you can't do any work, but it also means it's hard to fix the problem.
And as the hours went on, that problem got a lot bigger, because CrowdStrike is used by organizations around the globe. Fortune 500 companies, major banks, energy companies, airlines. And as the rest of the world started their day...
Sir, if I am missing my US flight, Qatar flight, what will happen? What you will do?
That faulty update rippled across systems, causing outages almost everywhere, and disrupting everything from airports to 911 services.
So they're saying that they have a pan-India system outage at the moment, and that was also why they were not able to send out any information through either SMS or an email.
Die Folge ist, dass in
Officials in Europe were already getting a grasp on how bad the issue was. Germany's cybersecurity chief warned people it would be a long day. And in Paris, where the world is arriving for next week's Olympics...
Arrived in Paris this morning and went to go get my accreditation validated, but been told no, pretty much.
So by the time North Americans woke up, the outage had been playing out for hours. And again, people couldn't even log into their computers. Several hospitals across Canada said they had to find workarounds to keep services going. There were lineups at the border and delays at the airports. American Airlines, United, Delta, and Porter all grounded flights.
We got here like 9:30 a.m. When we arrived, we were just told to come back at 12 because everything was down. So we've been waiting since 9:30.
And by this time, CrowdStrike had been doing damage control and trying to get things back online.
We've been on, with our customers all night and working with them. Many of the customers are rebooting the system, and it's coming up and it'll be operational because of, we fixed it on our end.
This is Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 6. And it reads, Ask ye now and see whether man doth travail with child. Wherefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins, as a woman in travail, and all faces are turned into paleness. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. Okay? This is going to be definitely Jacob's trouble if this happens and it shuts down all the computers. It's going to make way for the C hit, which is the MOTB. They had a perfect excuse and a perfect plan to introduce this C-HIP. I digress. I'll let this finish playing.
But this wouldn't be an easy fix.
This is not something that can just be fixed with all the computers remotely over the internet. It's something that individual system administrators are going to have to fix one PC at a time.
And while services slowly started coming back in the afternoon, For some, it's still a waiting game.
So how does something like this happen? Let's get the perspective from Ritesh Kotek, a Canadian cybersecurity consultant and tech analyst. When you heard the news this morning and saw all these systems shutting down, what was your reaction?
My initial reaction is, what happened and how can this happen in the first place? Clearly, given the time of when we started hearing about the outages, that's usually when these massive updates happen at an enterprise level. That's because you have the least amount of users. So I kind of right off the bat thought, okay, it seems like maybe there's an update gone wrong, some sort of network issue, but how can this happen in the first place? Usually when you do these updates, they're tested. You use a sandboxed environment. It's not as simple as just hitting the update button. So when we started hearing about services going down, businesses being disrupted, my initial thought was, how could this happen and why was it not tested?
Okay, that was your initial thought. Hours have passed now, though I know we don't have very specific answers, but now as you look back at it, do you have any...
Jake, you better wake up. This is gear tailor-made by the Most High for you. You Negroes, Latinos, you Native Americans, you speckled bird, you those that are Israel but look like the other nations. Jacob's trouble is tailor-made for Israel. Okay? And the other nations are just collateral damage. That's all they are. This is specifically geared towards you. So you must repent and get right, or you face the list of judgments and deletions by Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushua.
Any greater insight into how it wasn't tested properly?
We still don't know exactly why this bug impacted Microsoft users in particular. And these are endpoints, so your laptops, your computers, your virtual machines, or your servers that were impacted, and obviously the stuff that ran on it. Corporations couldn't function. We still don't know the exact from a technical perspective, but what we do know is very quickly a patch, so a remedy, a fix, was made available when the initial issue was discovered. So it was very quick. But to kind of reverse the updates, to roll back the clock, to get the new system and the new update up and running, to ensure that all the settings are correct, that has taken some time. There's still systems that are down. I'm sure there'll be multiple systems that'll come back online and be at 100% in the coming days. But that's kind of my initial thoughts with everything going on, and kind of what to make of this.
We all saw the impact it had on the airline industry, lots of delays and confusion at airports in Canada and particularly in the United States. And I thought that was interesting because the aviation industry is used to a really robust system for investigating its own failures. And when there is a failure in aviation, everybody within the industry learns about it and makes changes. What about in this industry, in software? Do you think the lessons that come out of this will be shared among other companies and other users to make it unlikely this will happen again in the future?
When it comes to diagnosing exactly what happened, we really have it down pat in the physical world. But when it happens in the virtual world with these types of updates, it seems like we still have a lot of work to do. And maybe one of the things coming out of this is, how do we...
This is Revelation chapter 18, verse 6. When this stuff plays out and we have the last pieces of prophecy left, okay? This is what this is for. Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her according to her works. And the cup which she hath filled to her double. So the Lord, when this place goes down, it's going to go down doubly fast. Okay, it's going to be the quickest takedown in history. Yahweh B'Ashem Yahushua is going to make a speedy riddance of this place.
We identify these issues, and how do we have a global response and even create a global standard to ensure that there's the appropriate business processes in place, that redundancies are built in, that it doesn't happen where one update ends up crippling entire sectors. And I think that this is one learning, essentially lesson that needs to come out of this, is how are we going to address not just this outage but future outages which are inevitable.
And so how confident are you, Ritesh, that these kinds of industry-wide changes will be made so we don't see stuff like this happening again?
I'm confident that there is going to be some changes that are going to come out of it. Clearly, having a global outage means that organizations suffer. The bottom line suffers. And I think when you start putting dollars and cents towards these types of problems, that we're going to start seeing some changes. But what are those changes? I think we got to break it up into two categories. The first one being technical, so ensuring that you have the right infrastructure in place. You don't have all your eggs in one basket. And the second being, from a business standpoint, making sure that you have the right processes in place. So there's redundancy built in, that there's resilience built in, and you have some sort of continuity in place. And I think if those conversations start to happen, I'm pretty confident that this is going to be taken seriously. There'll be better information.
I think you get the drift, you know. I'll close out there giving all praises to Yahweh, B'Ashem Yahushua, B'Ashem Kodash. And again, double honors to the apostles and the elders, the GMS, the rule and teach well in the scriptures, salutation to Akim, and Akwathium, that are pushing, you know, towards salvation. And until next time, Shalom.